He had left his flat before first light to get to Battersea in time for the second stage of his reconnaissance. He had made his plans. He is methodical and he is well trained, although this morning he has a pounding headache. Perhaps he's coming down with flu. The cold caught him by surprise. It was so intense that it had body to it. It filled his mouth and probed the nerve endings of his teeth. When he got off the train at Battersea, the snow had turned to sleet. Realistically, even in the half-light, he could not expect to hide for very long within the shrubbery of the park, nor loiter inconspicuously on the street, a solitary figure in the freezing rain. No. His intention was to be strolling past Helen's mansion block at exactly the same time as she was leaving for the carol concert. She had said that it began at 10. She normally allows 3/4 of an hour for the journey from home to school. She is the music teacher. Obviously, she will have to be there well before the event is due to start. She is conscientious. She will want to get to the school by 9:15. It was now just after 7:30. He had about an hour to kill, but found a convenient workman's cafe near the station. If he can be outside the mansion block by 8:25, he will see Helen again. He was right, and he was lucky. The first time he walked up the street past the entrance, there was no one there at all. At the far end of the street he stopped and, for the benefit of anyone who might be spying on him from a window, pretended to consult the A to Z. His umbrella would afford him some protection from busybodies twitching their lace curtains. He turned back down the street, and as he was approaching it on the opposite side, he saw that the main door of the mansion block was opening. 3 people emerged and walked down the shallow flight of steps together. One was the lovely woman in the pale coat. The other 2 were men. A man of average height in a hooded yellow waterproof, a much taller man in a green waxed jacket, bareheaded, his thick hair almost black. Stephen knew him instantly as the man who shared a room with Rollo Buckingham, and the shock of that recognition stopped his breath. It was more than ever crucial now that he should not be seen. He couldn't stand there on the pavement staring, but neither could he swivel on his heel and stride off in the opposite direction. There was nothing for it but to tilt his umbrella at an angle like a shield and march right past the 3 of them, with his head bent and his face averted. When he reached the corner of the street, he dared a backwards glance. Both men were unlocking bicycles that had been chained to the railings by the flats. Helen was standing near them, struggling to put up a red umbrella. Dangerous though he knew it was, Stephen was desperate for a closer look. He ducked into the portal of the next block, where it could seem that he was ringing a doorbell. It was an inspired move. Raised above the level of the street, sheltered by the roofed portal, and in a feigned attitude of waiting, Stephen could observe all 3 as they reached the corner. The 2 men were wheeling their bikes. At the corner, Helen gave a little wave, crossed the main road, and went towards the gate into the park. One or other of the men called after her, but a passing lorry drowned their voices out. Both then swung their legs over their crossbars and rode off side by side in the direction of Albert Bridge. Stephen watched Helen walk away from him. He was in no condition to follow her or anybody else through the wintry park. The thunderbolt was having a serious effect, now that the immediate risk of being caught was past. He needed to wait a while until his nerves were steady. How could he have failed to identify Phoenix weeks ago? He must have seen him in that room a dozen times or more. It is true that he only delivers reports by hand when they may be urgent, and that when he does, he often finds Rollo there alone. But even so, how could he have been so blinkered and obtuse?